The bank alert came at 1:17 in the morning. Sophia Monroe was standing in her kitchen, still wearing the same coat her father had thrown across the living room hours earlier, when her phone lit up on the marble counter. Unusual withdrawal activity. For a few seconds, she only stared at the screen. Rain tapped against the tall windows behind her. The city below looked quiet, clean, almost kind. Nothing like the house she had just left. Nothing like the room where her father had stood with a black trash bag in one hand and her coat in the other, shouting loud enough for the neighbors to hear. "You belong with the rest of it." He had thrown the bag at her feet. Not beside her. At her. Her mother had looked away. Her sister Belle had pressed her lips together, not to hide pain, but to hide the beginning of a smile. And Sophia had done the one thing none of them expected. She did not scream. She did not beg. She did not defend the years she had worked until sunrise, the nights she slept beside code manuals, the business she built from a folding table in a rented garage. She picked up her coat, stepped around the trash bag, and smiled. That smile had bothered her father more than tears ever could. Because people who still think they own you need to see you break. They need the noise. They need the collapse. They need proof that their words still have a key to your chest. Sophia gave him none of it. She walked out into the rain with her back straight, got into her car, and drove away before anyone could realize she had not lost a home. She had only left a house. Now, hours later, she unlocked her phone and opened the bank app through the official portal. Her hands were steady at first. Then the number appeared. $18,400 withdrawn. From an old emergency rebuild fund. Sophia's breath stopped. That fund had not been touched in years. She had created it after her grandmother's kitchen fire, back when she was still young enough to believe being useful might finally make her loved. Back then, she had been the one filling out forms, calling contractors, checking receipts, sitting in hospital chairs while the rest of the family argued over blame. Her mother, Evelyn, had been added temporarily to help with paperwork. Temporarily. Sophia clicked the transaction note. Family housing repair. A cold stillness moved through her. There was no housing repair. There was no family emergency. Only a signature that should not have worked anymore. Only a door she had forgotten to lock. Only her mother walking through it. Sophia set the phone down and looked across the room. Her townhouse near the Willamette River was silent except for the rain. 2 floors above the private garage. Floor-to-ceiling windows. A second-floor office filled with contracts, patents, product designs, and framed papers her family had never asked to see. To them, she was still the confused girl who left college at 18. The one who refused the safe path. The one who chose odd jobs, online courses, cheap coffee, and a rented garage over the life they could explain to their friends. They called her stubborn first. Then embarrassing. Then irresponsible. And when her company, Safe Nest Systems, started as a small safety platform for older homes, they called it a toy. A little app won't make you an adult, her father had said once, folding a newspaper like he was closing the case on her life. Belle had laughed from the couch. Maybe she can install smoke alarms for influencers. Her mother had sighed with that soft, polished disappointment she used when she wanted cruelty to sound like concern. You have so much potential, Sophia. It's sad watching you waste it. So Sophia stopped explaining. She stopped bringing up meetings. Stopped mentioning clients. Stopped correcting them when they said she was barely paying rent. She let them keep their small version of her because it protected the bigger truth. SafeNest was no longer a little app. It had become a full safety system for old houses and vulnerable neighborhoods. Sensors for smoke, water leaks, wiring risks, repair records, contractor verification, and insurance-ready reports. The kind of technology that helped families prove what happened before a landlord, a contractor, or an insurance company could pretend nothing was wrong. It protected people who were used to being ignored. Maybe that was why she had built it. Because she knew what it felt like to be dismissed inside a place that was supposed to keep you safe. The next morning, Sophia called the bank before sunrise. By 7, she had spoken to a branch manager. By 8, her attorney had the paperwork. By 9, she was sitting at her desk with a cup of coffee she had not touched, listening to facts that made the betrayal worse. Her mother had gone in person. She had been calm, prepared, confident. She had told the teller the withdrawal was approved and urgent. Sophia asked one question. Was my name used? There was a pause on the other end. Yes, the branch manager said carefully. Your mother stated this was for a family-related repair matter connected to the original purpose of the account. Sophia closed her eyes. Not because she was surprised. Because a part of her had still hoped they had not gone that far. Her attorney, Maren Holt, called 10 minutes later. Maren was not warm in the usual way. She did not waste words. She had the kind of voice that could make a lie feel nervous. I've started the review, she said. Do not contact your mother yet. I wasn't planning to. Good. We need records before reactions. Sophia looked at the rain drying on the glass. Find out where the money went. I already requested the trail. The call ended, and Sophia sat very still. A few years ago, this would have ruined her. Not because of the money. She could replace the amount without changing her week. But because of what it meant. They had not only thrown her out. They had reached into something built for recovery, something created after fire and fear, and treated it like a family drawer they could open whenever Belle needed shine. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was Caleb. Her cousin. The only person in the family who could sit at a dinner table full of sharp smiles and still notice who was bleeding quietly. Are you okay? Sophia stared at the message. I'm fine. Why? His answer came fast. Your mom told everyone last night you finally needed tough love. Your dad said some people only learn when comfort is removed. Sophia leaned back in her chair. Comfort. That was what they called it. A trash bag at her feet. Rain on her shoulders. A father too proud to ask one honest question. Another message appeared. Belle said maybe now you'll learn what a real brand looks like. Her studio opens this week. Big launch. Sophia read that twice. Belle Monroe had always known how to turn attention into oxygen. She filmed morning routines in silk robes, closet tours, coffee corners, soft speeches about ambition, and sponsored clips about building a life with discipline. Her parents loved every second of it. Belle looked successful in photographs. That was enough for them. Sophia's success had arrived without glitter. It came through long nights, quiet contracts, boring compliance calls, code revisions, insurance meetings, city safety panels, and staff payroll. No ring light. No champagne wall. No mother standing nearby to clap. That evening, Sophia drove past her parents' house. She told herself she only wanted to see the place once more from the outside, to close the door properly in her own mind. But when she turned onto the familiar street, she saw the dining room windows glowing. The whole family was there. Her father, Grant Monroe, sat at the head of the table with his shoulders wide and his chin lifted, like he was presiding over a trial he had already won. Evelyn sat beside him, one hand around a wine glass, the other resting near Belle as if her younger daughter were a prize on display. Belle was holding up her phone, showing something to the room. Everyone laughed. Sophia parked 3 houses down. The windshield blurred the scene just enough to make it look almost gentle. Warm light. Silverware. Family portraits on the wall. The same house where she had once sat through birthdays feeling like an extra chair. She could not hear their words. She did not need to. Belle tilted her head in that bright, practiced way she used when telling a story. Evelyn laughed behind her fingers. Grant shook his head with the satisfaction of a man who believed he had finally forced order back into his home. They were not worried about Sophia. They were enjoying her absence. That was the moment something inside her became clear. Not louder. Clearer. They were not just wrong about her. They were invested in being wrong. Her failure made their story easier. It made Grant look firm, Evelyn look patient, and Belle look like the daughter who had done everything right. If Sophia walked in and told them the truth, they would call her dramatic. If she showed them her company valuation, they would say she was bragging. If she exposed the money tonight, they would cry confusion and beg for privacy before anyone else saw their hands. So she stayed in the car. She watched them laugh a little longer. Then she drove away. For the first time in her life, she did not feel the need to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding her. The next day, Evelyn called. Sophia let it ring once before answering. Sophia, her mother said, bright and smooth, like nothing had happened. Your father and I need you to come by this weekend. Sophia looked at the open contract on her laptop. A regional insurance partner. 6 figures. 2 years. Expansion across 3 counties. For what? The storage room needs clearing. Since you're probably between things now, you can help. There it was. Not are you safe? Not where did you sleep? Not your father went too far. Just a chore. A reminder of place. A rope thrown down, not to rescue her, but to see if she would climb back into the role they preferred. I'm not available, Sophia said. A pause. Then Evelyn's voice cooled under the sweetness. Not available for family? I have work. A tiny laugh came through the phone. Your work. Yes. Well, when that little project stops paying your bills, don't say nobody warned you. Sophia almost smiled. My bills are paid. That tone is exactly why your father snapped. Sophia turned her chair toward the window. No, Mom. He snapped because I stopped bending. The silence after that was brief but sharp. Evelyn did not like direct language. She preferred guilt and soft wrapping. You know, she said slowly, one day you will regret making everything so difficult. Sophia's voice stayed calm. I already regret making it easy. She ended the call before her mother could answer. For 3 full minutes, Sophia did nothing. Then Marin called. We have the transfer trail. Sophia picked up the phone. Tell me. The withdrawal was converted into 2 payments. One went to a furniture vendor. The other went to a lighting and installation company. Sophia looked at the city below. Belle's studio. That would be my assumption, Marin said. But we'll confirm with invoices. Sophia did not speak. Marin waited. Then added, Sophia, this is not a misunderstanding. This is a documented withdrawal using outdated access and a false purpose. I know. Do you want to move formally? Sophia watched a boat slide slowly along the river, its light cutting through the gray water. Not yet. Marin's voice sharpened. Not yet? I want the full picture first. There was a short silence. Then Marin said, that is the smarter answer. That night, Sophia drove to Belle's studio launch. She did not go inside. The studio sat in a clean commercial strip with wide windows and gold lettering on the glass. Belle Monroe home. Inside, everything glowed. Soft beige chairs. Fresh flowers. Tall mirrors. Perfect shelves. A backdrop wall. Ring lights bright enough to make every corner look expensive. Belle stood near the center in a cream dress, smiling as if the room had risen from her own hard work. Evelyn moved around her with a phone in hand, recording every angle. Grant stood near a table of desserts, laughing with guests, one hand in his pocket, proud in the lazy way of men who enjoy the reward without asking where the money came from. Sophia stood outside under the awning. She saw her stolen money in the light stands. In the flower wall. In the polished sign. In the trays of pastries. In Belle's smile. And what hurt most was not the theft. It was the comfort. No one looked nervous. No one looked ashamed. They had taken from her and turned it into proof that Belle deserved celebration. Sophia's reflection appeared faintly in the glass. Dark coat. Still face. Hair pulled back. A woman standing outside a party paid for by her own erased value. For 1 second, she saw the younger version of herself. The 18-year-old sitting alone in a rented garage, eating noodles from a paper cup, teaching herself how to build the first safe nest dashboard while her family joked that she was wasting her life. That younger Sophia had wanted someone to knock on the garage door and say, "Keep going." No one came. So she kept going anyway. Belle lifted a glass inside. The room clapped. Sophia turned and walked back to her car. On the drive home, she did not turn on the radio. She did not speed. She did not cry. She called Marin. "Lock everything," Sophia said. "Every old account. Every authorization. Every signature access. Anything with my name attached to theirs. I'll start tonight. I also need an investigator." For the withdrawal? For all of it. Marin understood quickly. Business, property, contracts? Licenses. Loans. Public filings. Charity connections. Anything involving Grant, Evelyn, Belle, and Monroe home renewal. Marin was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "This is bigger than the bank account." Sophia looked at the wet road ahead. It became bigger when they smiled. 2 days later, the investigator called. His name was Owen Pike, a former insurance fraud examiner who spoke like a man who had spent years reading lies in black ink. "I have your first batch," he said. Sophia put him on speaker and opened a blank file on her desk. "Go ahead. Your father's company is under financial pressure. Vendor delays. Short-term loans. A few unpaid balances that keep getting rolled forward. That doesn't surprise me. There's more." Sophia's fingers paused over the keyboard. Monroe Home Renewal submitted a bid last month for the city's Safe Homes initiative. The room seemed to narrow. Safe Homes. The same city-backed housing safety program Safe Nest had spent months preparing for. The same initiative that could bring her company into older neighborhoods, fire-risk zones, flood-prone streets, and low-income homes where repairs were always delayed until disaster forced action. Sophia slowly sat back. My father bid on Safe Homes? Yes, Owen said. And Sophia, the paperwork has problems. Outside, the last of the rain slid down the glass. Inside, Sophia looked at the Safe Nest proposal on her desk, then at the bank records beside it, then at the family photo she had taken from her old room years ago and never framed. For a long time, she said nothing. Because now it was no longer just about a father who called his daughter worthless. No longer just about a mother who stole under the cover of family. No longer just about a sister building a brand on someone else's money. If Owen was right, Grant Monroe was reaching for a public safety contract that would put real families behind his shortcuts. Sophia picked up a pen and wrote one sentence at the top of the blank file. Let them finish their story. Then she said, send me everything. Owen sent the first file before sunrise. Sophia opened it in her office while the city was still dark and the only light in the room came from her desk lamp and the blue glow of her laptop. The file was not dramatic. No loud confession. No secret recording. Just dates, names, permits, invoices, and signatures placed neatly in rows. That made it worse. Lies look smaller when people speak them. On paper, they become heavier. Monroe Home Renewal had been struggling for months. Grant had borrowed against future jobs, delayed payments to suppliers, and promised faster work than his team could deliver. A company that looked steady at church breakfasts and neighborhood fundraisers was being held together with charm, credit, and excuses. Sophia read every line. She learned that 2 vendors had stopped offering him flexible terms. A roofing supplier had filed a warning notice before pulling it back after a partial payment. One contractor had complained about unpaid overtime and then disappeared from the company records. None of it was illegal by itself, but it showed a pattern. Grant Monroe was not as strong as he pretended. He was just loud enough to make people stop looking closely. Then Sophia reached the Safe Homes bid. Her body went still. The city proposal was supposed to help residents in older homes get real safety upgrades before disaster came. Fire sensors. Wiring checks. Water leak alerts. Repair documentation. Insurance-ready files. Contractor accountability. It was not a stage for family pride. It was not a place for shortcuts. But Grant's bid treated it like one. Some subcontractor licenses were expired. A few inspection forms had signatures that looked almost too neat, too similar, too convenient. Material estimates were higher than market range. One invoice number appeared under 2 different addresses. A community endorsement letter came from a charity committee where Evelyn had influence, but there was no record of a meeting, no vote, no approval trail. Just a glowing paragraph about trust. Sophia leaned back and rubbed one hand over her mouth. Trust. Her family loved that word. They used it when they wanted access. They used it when they wanted silence. They used it when they wanted people to believe their version without asking for proof. By 7, Marin was on the phone. I'm looking at it, the attorney said. Papers shifted in the background. This isn't just messy. Some of this could become a formal compliance problem. Could? If the city reviews it closely, yes. If the named subcontractors deny the signatures, definitely. The charity letter is also dangerous. For my mother? For the committee first. Then for whoever helped attach that letter without approval. Sophia looked toward the wall where the first safe nest patent hung in a black frame. Her family had never seen that wall. They had never stood in that office. They had never watched her employees stay late because they believed the work mattered. They still thought she was somewhere licking her wounds. Maybe on a borrowed couch. Maybe waiting for hunger to teach her obedience. What do we do? Sophia asked. We do this cleanly, Marin said. No emotional accusations. No family history. No speeches. We submit a compliance packet through proper channels. If there are violations, the city will find them. Sophia nodded, even though no one could see her. Prepare it. And Sophia? Yes? Once this starts, your family will know someone looked. Sophia's eyes moved to the bank withdrawal file still open on the side of her screen. They should have thought about that before they used my name. By mid-morning, Safe Nest was awake around her. The office filled with soft footsteps, keyboard taps, elevator chimes, and the low sound of people building something bigger than themselves. Her team did not know the details of what had happened at her parents' house. They only knew their CEO had been quieter than usual and sharper in meetings. Sophia did not bring her pain into the conference room. She brought focus. At 10, the product team gathered around a long glass table while Sophia opened the latest Safe Homes presentation. On the screen was a map of old neighborhoods across Portland. Red dots marked fire risks. Blue dots marked water damage zones. Yellow tags marked homes with repeated inspection delays. This program cannot depend on trust alone, she said. Her operations lead, Jonah, looked up. You want stronger verification? I want everything traceable. If a contractor installs a sensor, we need the license, timestamp, photo record, and resident confirmation. If a repair is billed, the city should see the cost trail. If a house fails inspection, the system flags it before payment clears. Her engineering director frowned slightly, but not in resistance. In calculation. That's bigger than the current proposal. Then we make the proposal bigger. Jonah tapped his pen once on the table. It will make us harder to ignore. Sophia looked around the room. It will make residents harder to ignore. That was the truth under everything. She could have used Safe Nest to prove she was rich. She could have made a show of the townhouse, the investors, the contracts, the company valuation. But none of that interested her as much as the work itself. Old houses hid danger quietly. Faulty wires behind walls. Slow leaks under floors. Smoke detectors with dead batteries. Insurance forms no one understood. Contractors who promised repairs, then left families with painted surfaces and unsafe bones. Sophia knew what it meant to live inside a place where danger was hidden under pretty words. So she built tools that made hiding harder. For the next 2 weeks, she moved like a woman made of calm steel. By day, she led product revisions, investor calls, insurance partner meetings, and city presentation rehearsals. By night, she reviewed Owen's reports and Marin's notes. When she went home, the townhouse was quiet, but it no longer felt empty. It felt protected. Her family kept performing. Belle posted short videos from her studio every day. She filmed soft pillows, gold lamps, scented candles, and captions about building from nothing. In one clip, she stood near the front window and said, "Real success requires discipline, not excuses." Sophia watched it once. Not because Belle mattered. Because evidence sometimes wore lip gloss. Caleb sent the clip with a message. "She's talking about you again." Sophia typed back. "Let her." A minute later, he replied. "You're scaring me a little." This time Sophia almost laughed. "Good." But Caleb did not leave it there. "They really think you're struggling. Your dad told Uncle Martin he finally stopped funding your fantasy." Sophia stared at the message longer than she expected. Grant had never funded Safe Nest. Not $1. Not one office chair. Not one software license. Not one meal during the nights Sophia forgot to eat. The only thing he had ever given her was doubt, and even that came with interest. She put the phone down and returned to work. That was the only answer worth giving. On Friday afternoon, Owen came to her office in person. He was in his late 50s, neat gray hair, plain coat, no unnecessary smile. He placed a thick folder on her desk like he was setting down a brick. "This is the second batch," he said. Sophia opened it. Inside were copies of public filings, loan documents, photos of posted permits, subcontractor records, and charity meeting notes. Owen pointed to one page with a silver pen. "That endorsement letter from the charity committee? Your mother's name is not on the final letter, but she emailed the draft to your father's office." Sophia read the printed email. Evelyn's words sat there, sweet and smooth. "Grant, this should help give the proposal the community trust it needs. Keep it general and don't overcomplicate it." Sophia felt something cold move behind her ribs. Owen pointed again. "There's no sign the committee approved that wording. And look here." He slid over another page. A studio invoice. Belle Monroe home. Lighting package. Backdrop build out. Custom shelving. Furniture deposit. The date matched the bank withdrawal. The amount matched almost exactly. Sophia did not touch the page at first. It looked harmless. A business invoice. A clean logo. A list of pretty things. But beneath it was her grandmother's fire. The hospital chair. The smoke-smelling sweaters. The first reason Sophia had created a rebuild fund at all. Evelyn had taken money meant for recovery and turned it into lighting for Belle's image. Owen watched her carefully. "You already knew?" "I suspected. Now you have paper." Sophia finally picked up the invoice. "Yes," she said. "Now I have paper." That night, Sophia stayed at the office after everyone left. The building settled around her. Cleaning carts rolled far down the hall. The river outside reflected small lines of light. On her desk, two folders sat side by side. One was the city proposal. The other was the family file. For most of her life, those two worlds had stayed separate. Her work and her wound. Her mission and her past. Her company and the people who laughed when it was only a rented garage and a second-hand laptop. Now they had crossed. Grant had walked into the same public safety space she had spent years building for. Evelyn had used charity language to lift him. Belle had used stolen money to polish herself. And all three still believed Sophia was too small to matter. Her phone buzzed. A message from Evelyn. "Your father is worried about you. This can all be fixed if you stop being stubborn." Sophia read it twice. Not sorry. Not where are you. Not did I hurt you. Just fixed. As if the problem was her refusal to return to the shape they liked. She did not answer. Instead, she opened her laptop and wrote an email to Marin. Move forward with the compliance packet. No emotion. No explanation. Just that. On Monday morning, the city received the documentation. On Tuesday, Monroe Home Renewal received notice that its Safe Homes bid had been flagged for additional review. By Tuesday afternoon, Grant called Sophia for the first time since throwing her out. She watched his name flash across her phone. Dad. That word looked strange now. Too soft for what he had been. Too simple for the damage he carried in his voice. She let it ring. He left no message. 10 minutes later, he called again. Then Evelyn. Then Grant again. Sophia turned her phone face down and walked into a meeting. The meeting was with a journalist. Her assistant had arranged it weeks earlier, long before the family file had grown teeth. A local business reporter was writing about technology companies working on public good, and Safe Nest had been selected for a feature. Sophia almost canceled. Then she thought about Belle's videos. Grant's lies. Evelyn's charity smile. No. She would not hide the truth of her work because her family had made hiding convenient. The reporter, Dana Ruiz, arrived with a notebook, a recorder, and a direct way of looking at people that Sophia respected. I don't want this to feel like a founder brag piece, Dana said after they sat down. Good, Sophia replied. I don't want to be in one. Dana smiled. So what is Safe Nest really about? Sophia glanced through the glass wall at her team. Jonah was helping a younger engineer fix a dashboard issue. 2 customer support leads were reviewing a case from an elderly resident whose leak alert had prevented serious floor damage. It's about proof, Sophia said. A lot of families know something is wrong in their home, but they can't prove it until the damage is too big to ignore. We give them records before crisis steals their choices. Dana wrote that down. And why this field? Sophia's answer came slower. Because people with less power are asked to trust systems that do not always protect them. Dana looked up. That sounds personal. Sophia held her gaze. It is. She did not give the reporter the family story. Not the trash bag. Not the bank withdrawal. Not Belle's studio. Not yet. Some wounds do not need to be public to be real. But she did speak about starting at 18. About leaving college and teaching herself. About the rented garage. About building the first version of Safe Nest after seeing how complicated recovery became for families after fires and leaks. About how safety should not depend on who could afford a lawyer, a perfect contractor, or a patient insurance agent. When the article came out 2 mornings later, it did not mention Grant Monroe. It did not mention Evelyn. It did not mention Belle. That made it more powerful. The headline called Safe Nest one of Oregon's most promising civic technology companies. The photo showed Sophia standing outside a restored Craftsman home beside an older woman whose heating issue had been caught before it turned dangerous. The article described Sophia as the founder and CEO, named the company's insurance partnerships, and explained that Safe Nest was a finalist for the city's Safe Homes initiative. By lunch, the messages started. Former classmates. Old neighbors. People from business circles. People who had once believed her family's version because it was easier. I had no idea this was you. This is incredible. Sophia Monroe from Safe Nest? That's really you? Congratulations. Then came Evelyn. Honey, we saw the article. We are so proud of you. You should have told us things were going this well. Sophia stared at the screen. Proud. The word arrived late and dressed too nicely. Where had pride been when Sophia worked all night and still showed up to family dinners with tired eyes? Where had it been when Grant mocked her company? Where had it been when Evelyn called her work a phase? Where had it been when Belle borrowed the language of ambition and used Sophia as the example of what not to become? Sophia set the phone down. No answer could improve that message. An hour later, Belle posted a story. Family doing powerful things. So proud of my sister. The text floated over a photo from the article. Belle added a white heart. For a few minutes, it looked harmless. Then the comments began. Is this the same sister you joked about in your studio live? Wait, Safe Nest is huge. Why didn't you ever mention her before? Didn't you say your sister didn't understand real business? The story vanished before dinner. Sophia heard about it from Caleb. He called instead of texting this time. I think they're panicking, he said. Sophia stood at her office window, watching traffic move across the bridge. What happened? Aunt Evelyn is telling people you've always been private and the family didn't want to expose your success. Sophia closed her eyes for a moment. That's creative. And your dad is angry. That's familiar. He said someone is trying to ruin his business. Sophia opened her eyes. Someone gave the city documents. His own business is doing the rest. Caleb was quiet. Then he said, Sophia, did they really use money from your account for Belle's studio? Sophia did not answer right away. The question sounded different from him. Not curious. Heavy. Yes. He breathed out. I'm sorry. Those two words landed more honestly than every polished message her mother had ever sent. Thank you, Sophia said. You know they're going to make you the villain. They already did. I just stopped auditioning for a better role. The city audit widened by the end of the week. A subcontractor denied signing one of the inspection forms attached to Grant's bid. Another admitted his license had expired before the proposal date. A supplier confirmed that 2 invoices had not been issued for the addresses listed. The charity committee was asked to explain why its endorsement appeared in a public contract package without a recorded approval. Evelyn's world began to shake. Not loudly at first. That was not her style. She sent short messages. Please call me. This is becoming embarrassing. Your father is under stress. You don't understand how community work operates. Then, late one night, something different. I did what I thought was best for the family. Sophia read that message in bed, the room dark except for the phone. For the family. Not for Sophia. Never for Sophia. She placed the phone on the nightstand and turned away from it. The next morning, Safe Nest received the invitation to the final presentation round at City Hall. The whole office changed when the email came in. People gathered near the central table, reading the message over each other's shoulders. Someone laughed from relief. Someone clapped once, then everyone joined. Jonah hugged the operations lead. The junior engineer who had stayed late all week covered her mouth with both hands. Sophia stood among them and let herself feel it. Not victory yet. But arrival. The kind no one could hand to Belle in a gift bag. The kind no father could dismiss with a red face and a raised voice. She had built this. Line by line. Failure by failure. Night by night. At the final rehearsal, Jonah noticed her staring too long at the first slide. "You okay?" he asked quietly. Sophia looked at the screen. Safe Homes Initiative, transparent protection for every resident. "I'm thinking about where this started." "The garage?" She smiled faintly. "That too." Jonah waited. He had worked with her long enough to know when not to push. Sophia clicked to the next slide. It showed a simple diagram of the resident dashboard. "My family used to think this was a toy." Jonah's face tightened. "They were wrong." "Yes," Sophia said. "But being wrong is not the same as being harmless." That sentence stayed with him. She could tell. The presentation at City Hall took place on a bright, cold morning. Sophia wore a dark blue suit and carried no family folder. Only the Safe Nest proposal. Her team sat behind her, focused and nervous in the best way. The review board included housing officials, fire safety advisors, insurance representatives, and community partners. People who had seen enough polished promises to know the difference between confidence and preparation. Sophia stood at the front and did not rush. She showed them how the system worked inside a real home. How alerts moved from resident to contractor to city dashboard. How every repair could be verified. How pricing could be compared. How records could protect honest contractors and expose careless ones. How residents could access simple reports without needing legal language or technical knowledge. Then she showed them the audit trail. License verification. Photo documentation. Timestamps. Resident approvals. Cost transparency. No mystery signatures. No vague trust. No hidden shortcuts. When she finished, no one spoke for a moment. It was not the cold silence of her father's living room. It was the kind of quiet that happens when people are recalculating what is possible. One board member leaned forward. "Ms. Monroe," he said, "your proposal adds more oversight than required." "Why?" Sophia looked at the people seated across from her. "Because minimum standards protect systems," she said. "Clear records protect people." By sunset, the official email arrived. Safe Nest Systems had been selected as the primary technology partner for the Safe Homes Initiative. Sophia read the line once. Then again. Her office door was closed, but she could hear the team outside waiting, trying badly to pretend they were not listening. She opened the door. "We got it." For 1 second, no one moved. Then the room broke open. Cheers, hands over faces, chairs rolling back, people hugging, someone laughing so hard they had to sit down. Jonah turned away quickly, but Sophia still saw him wipe at one eye. Sophia let the joy surround her. For a moment, the trash bag did not exist. The dining room laughter did not exist. The studio lights did not exist. Only the work. Only the people who had believed before applause arrived. Her phone started ringing in her pocket. Grant. She ignored it. It rang again. Then again. By the time she checked later, there were 11 missed calls from him, 4 from Evelyn, and 2 from Belle. The first voicemail from Grant was controlled. "Sophia. We need to clear up some misunderstandings before this goes further." The second was sharper. "I don't know what you think you're doing, but dragging private matters into business is a mistake." The third came after midnight. His voice had changed. Less command. More strain. "Call me back." Sophia deleted none of them. Records mattered. On Saturday, a cream envelope arrived at her office by courier. Inside was an invitation to the annual Safe Homes Benefit, a formal charity dinner downtown hosted by the city's housing partners and community donors. Sophia had known she would attend. Safe Nest was now part of the program. What she had not known was that she would be the keynote speaker. Marin called as Sophia was reading the event note. "You saw the invitation?" "Yes. Your mother's charity committee is listed among the attending partners." Sophia's eyes moved down the page. Evelyn Monroe's name appeared under committee guests. Grant's company name was also there, printed from an older sponsor list before the audit had fully surfaced. Belle had posted earlier that morning about attending a meaningful community event. Of course she had. Sophia looked at the three names. For a long moment, she heard her father's voice again. "You belong with the rest of it." Then she looked at the keynote line. Sophia Monroe, founder and CEO, Safe Nest Systems. Marin said, "You don't have to use that night for anything personal." "I won't." "Good." Sophia closed the invitation. "I'll use it for the truth." The night of the benefit arrived with cold air, polished glass doors, and a hotel ballroom glowing like nothing ugly could ever happen inside it. Cream tablecloths. Gold lights. Soft conversations. Donors smiling over small plates. City officials shaking hands with people who knew how to look generous in public. Sophia arrived through the side entrance with her team, calm in a black dress and a simple necklace. In her hand was a slim folder. Not thick. Not dramatic. Just enough. Across the ballroom, Evelyn stood near a group of women from the charity committee, speaking with careful brightness. Grant was beside a contractor he used to know, his smile stretched too tightly at the edges. Belle stood near a flower display, phone raised, recording herself in the warm light. None of them had seen Sophia yet. Then the housing director stepped onto the stage and tapped the microphone. The room softened into attention. Sophia watched from the side as he welcomed the guests, thanked the partners, and spoke about the future of safer homes across the city. Then his voice carried clearly across the ballroom. "And tonight, we are honored to welcome the founder and CEO of Safe Nest Systems, our new technology partner for the Safe Homes Initiative, Sophia Monroe." At first, Sophia did not look at her family. She did not need to. The room told her everything. A small pause. A shift in bodies. A phone lowering too fast. A glass stopping halfway to someone's mouth. Then she finally turned her eyes toward them. Evelyn's smile had frozen. Belle's face had lost its camera-ready softness. Grant stood completely still, as if the floor beneath him had quietly changed ownership. Sophia stepped toward the stage. The folder rested at her side. And for the first time in her life, her family had to watch her walk into a room where they could not decide what she was worth. Sophia reached the stage with steady steps. Not fast. Not slow. Just steady. The kind of walk that does not ask permission from the room. The housing director shook her hand and moved aside. Applause rose around her, warm and respectful, but Sophia did not let it pull her away from the reason she was there. She placed her notes on the podium and looked out at the crowd. There were city officials near the front. Community leaders along the left side. Contractors, donors, housing advocates, and reporters scattered between round tables. And near the back, under the soft gold lights, stood the three people who had once looked at her like she was a mistake they had been forced to tolerate. Her father's jaw was tight. Her mother's fingers were locked around her clutch. Belle's phone hung at her side, forgotten. Sophia began without drama. She spoke about old houses. Not as real estate, not as assets, not as numbers in a proposal. As places where children slept. Where elderly people boiled tea in kitchens with wires hidden behind cracked walls. Where single parents ignored strange smells from heaters because calling someone meant money they did not have. Where a small leak could become a ruined floor, and a broken smoke alarm could become a headline no family deserved. Safety, she said, should not depend on who has the loudest voice, the best connections, or the cleanest story on paper. The ballroom went still. Sophia turned a page. It should depend on truth that can be checked. Work that can be verified. Records that protect the people who usually get asked to trust and wait. A few people nodded. One of the fire safety advisors leaned forward. Sophia continued, her voice calm. Safe Nest was built for people who have been ignored until the damage became too expensive to deny. This partnership is not only about sensors and software. It is about giving families proof before crisis steals their choices. She did not look at Grant when she said proof. She did not look at Evelyn when she said trust. She did not look at Belle when she said clean story. That was the power of it. She did not have to. The people who understood would understand. The applause came slowly at first, then stronger. Sophia thanked the room and stepped away from the podium. The housing director returned and announced the partnership in formal words, praising transparency, accountability, and the new verification tool Safe Nest would bring into the initiative. Then the compliance officer came up. He was a quiet man with silver glasses and a folder tucked under one arm. He thanked the community partners, then said several contractor submissions had been referred for deeper review because of documentation concerns. He did not name Monroe Home Renewal. He did not need to. In rooms built on reputation, silence can point like a finger. Grant's face changed. Only slightly. But Sophia saw it. The confidence in his eyes thinned. His shoulders, usually broad with command, drew inward by half an inch. A man who had spent years using volume as armor suddenly found himself in a room where volume would only make people look closer. Sophia moved toward the side hallway after the announcement, not because she wanted to run, but because she knew they would follow. They did. Sophia. Grant's voice came first. It still carried the old command, but it sounded cracked at the edges. She stopped near a quiet corner outside the ballroom. Behind them, forks touched plates, conversations resumed in careful tones, and a violin played softly near the front. Grant approached with Evelyn close behind him. Belle followed a few steps back, pale and stiff, her phone now pressed against her chest like it could protect her. "This has gone far enough," Grant said. Sophia turned to face him. "I agree." He blinked. He had expected anger. Maybe tears. Maybe the daughter who used to explain herself until her voice got tired. Sophia opened the slim folder in her hand and removed the first set of papers. "That is why everything has gone to the proper people." She handed the pages to him. Grant looked down. The first page showed the withdrawal from the Emergency Rebuild Fund. The second showed the old authorization. The third showed the transfer trail. Then the invoice. Lighting package. Custom shelving. Belle Monroe Home. Belle took one step closer. Her voice was small and sharp at the same time. "Why would you bring this here?" Sophia looked at her. "Because you let my pain become content. I brought receipts." Belle's mouth opened, then closed. Evelyn reached for the papers with shaking fingers. Sophia, sweetheart, this is not how family handles things. The word sweetheart felt strange coming from her now. Like a dress placed over a broken chair. Sophia did not soften. Family does not take money from a recovery fund and call it help. Evelyn's eyes filled quickly, the way they always did when guilt needed to become sympathy. I was trying to support both of my daughters. No, Sophia said. You were trying to support the one you liked being seen beside. Belle flinched. Grant's face hardened. You are enjoying this. Sophia studied him for a moment. Once, that tone would have made her hurry to defend herself. Once, she would have tried to prove she was not cruel, not selfish, not ungrateful. He had trained her to treat his disappointment like an emergency. Not anymore. No, she said. Enjoyment is what you did at dinner after throwing me out. Grant's eyes flicked toward the ballroom. A few people nearby had started pretending not to listen. That scared him more than her words. He lowered his voice. You are confusing business with family. Sophia slid another set of papers from the folder. These are your subcontractor license records. These are the duplicate invoice numbers. This is the inspection form one subcontractor says he never signed. And this is the charity endorsement with no recorded vote. Grant stared at the pages. For the first time that night, his hands did not look strong. They looked old. Evelyn whispered, Grant. He ignored her. His eyes stayed on Sophia. You had no right digging into my company. Sophia's voice remained even. You had no right bidding for homes that needed honest work. That landed harder than anything else. Because it was not about her anymore. Not only her. It was about families who would never know that behind a polished proposal were expired licenses, inflated costs, and signatures that needed explaining. Grant tried to recover. You think you're better than us now because some city people clapped for you? Sophia shook her head. I think you're angry because clapping is not the same thing as control. Belle suddenly looked at Evelyn. Mom, people are messaging me. Her phone had lit up again and again. Comments, screenshots, questions, sponsors, maybe even clips from the evening. Belle's perfect little world did not collapse with one explosion. It began with a screen that would not stop glowing. Belle looked back at Sophia. You can fix this. Just say it was a misunderstanding. Sophia asked quietly, was it? Belle looked down. The answer stood between them. Evelyn tried again, softer this time. We made mistakes. Sophia looked at her mother's wet eyes and felt the old pull. The little girl inside her who had wanted Evelyn to choose her. To defend her. To say, just once, that Grant had gone too far. To show up at the garage with dinner. To ask what safe nest meant before strangers had to explain it in an article. That little girl did not disappear. But she no longer got to drive.